What's up, pod pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School, the show where I teach podcasters how to love their podcast like a hobby and build it like a business. This is a world famous podcast audit session. I've got my pod pal, Kathy from Marketing Your Private Practice with Kathy C. Kathy C., how's it going?
Not bad. How are you doing?
The world famous Kathy C. I'm doing great. I love collaborating with you. We've done Instagram lives together. You did my challenge a few weeks back. So we are fast friends here, and I know that you're very excited. You're newer to the podcasting game. You're big in the email marketing game, and you're starting to get some traction, which I'm very, very excited about. So let's do the my world famous 6-month question. So 6 months from today, we're sitting down. Things have gone splendidly well. What does that look like for you?
So I always like to be realistic in what I project and what I'm looking for. So for me, what I would like to see in 6 months is that I've grown my email list with new subscribers from CTAs in the podcast. But I've also, and I have a specific number, so I'm looking for 75 new people every month for that. But I'm looking to get that to the point in 6 months of about 250 downloads per episode within the 30-day mark. And then that's kind of the big goals that I have from there. And then continuing what's been happening the last couple months as I've been running the podcast, which is fairly new, is having more people convert from listeners or leads into the community online into people that are signing up for my Thrive Marketing Academy, which is an evergreen registration system with special bonuses at different times of the year.
Okay. First question. Are you able to track, like with the calls to action that you're putting out on the podcast? Can you tell somebody came from the podcast specifically? Like, is there a specific call to action that you only use on the podcast, or do you have a special link set up so that you know and you can track that information?
So I don't have that yet because part of what I've been working on is some more specific CTAs for lead magnets. But once I have them in place, there is going to be a separate landing page that I use for those so that I can definitely track them and know exactly what's going on. I know right now what I've been able to track is I've been using for instance, in episodes, I think probably 5 to about 12 or so, I was using a very specific lead magnet that I wasn't promoting anywhere else.
Okay.
And I was getting more signups.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a sign. It's not, I don't know specifically because I didn't have the wherewithal, even though I teach this, to have a separate landing page. But it was more, I was in the overwhelm of getting this going, getting a system going for production. And so, but I have noticed that there are more signups for these lead magnets that I haven't been promoting on social media, but that are there in the CTAs for the podcast episodes.
It's interesting with the podcast. Like I mean, I've been doing this forever and I still feel like I forget, like people go all the way back. I had somebody that emailed me last week and said, "Hey, just found your show. And guess what? I love it so much. I'm starting at episode 1 and I'm going to listen to all of them." I was like, wow. I go, you may want to start at the newest ones and work backwards because some of those first ones were stinkers. But like there's power there. So all those calls to action, you will see those popping, and all of a sudden, wow, I haven't even talked about that in months. And all of a sudden, bang, 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 all these things are happening. I would propose and slightly challenge you to come up with, you are an awesome marketer. So maybe kind of reverse engineer the podcast listener perspective and maybe create a very simple lead magnet that's only for podcast listeners.
Okay.
That it's something like, I don't know. I'm big on the scorecard idea right now. That's worked really well for me. Like some sort of marketing scorecard where I mean, you've seen my podcast growth scorecard. I created that thing in 5 minutes and it's just a spreadsheet. Like something like that would be a lot of fun. Or I used to do a lot of quizzes and things like that, but just specific for the podcast listeners. That would be interesting, but I would want it to be something fairly simple that you could create, in an hour or less. And it's not like, now I have to create an online course just because Adam said so.
I have a ton of them because I've been doing this for 14 years. So I know that what I could do is take out of the website and just use one specific one. Like the
Yeah.
one that they've been grabbing is this marketing stats tracking template because I'm always big on tracking your stats from day one.
Yeah.
And it comes with a video lesson on how to use it. It comes in a Google spreadsheet or an Excel file. So it's kind of already there. So what I could do is, if that would work, remove it
Yeah.
from the website where
Just
people can
pop it in.
find it and then make
Yeah.
it just,
Yeah.
that's a possibility.
Yeah. And, you know, depending on what else you've got going on, like, you know, if you are in like a lull between open cart cycles and things like that, you could give that a good 4-week run where you're talking
Right.
about it in the intro and outro.
Okay.
I think that would be a very worthwhile experiment. Like, okay, it's already proven to work before.
Yeah.
People are grabbing it. You know, it's a good, you know, if it's converting well or whatever, and do a little 4-week run on the show as your downloads continue to
Right.
grow. I kind of like
Okay.
that as a nice little micro experiment, because
Okay.
with you, I'm not worried about the marketing. Like that's your thing. But it's just, you know, we've had several conversations about, okay, how do we get the listeners to convert over into your email list to
Right.
get deeper into your world? And, you know, we're coming up with a lot of strategies around that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like
And
that.
I kind of wonder right now if part of the listenership isn't people already connected to me.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I was looking at, I can see the stats of what cities they're in, the listeners for downloads.
Yeah.
And I probably can recognize some of them, right? So like one is in a little town in Alberta where my VA lives. One,
That's hilarious.
there's another little town, and I was just having a consult with somebody for my program, and she said she was listening to all the episodes, and I'm like, that her little town is also on the list.
Showing up on the radar. That's cool.
Yeah. So I guess that's something that I do wonder, because I kind of launched it from my email list and from my social. So for me, it's like trying to get those new people too.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's kind of both. Like,
Okay.
you've got an asset, which is great. A lot of people launch a show, they have zero email list, zero social media, zero marketing background.
Yeah.
You know, they're a school teacher or something like that decided they want to start a podcast as a side hustle, and they have no background in
Right.
marketing or anything. So you've got the marketing background, and you've got a great email list, and you are an expert in email marketing, and you've got some social media. So all good things. So I think one of the initial first steps to growth is going, okay, I have X amount of people on the list. I want to get at least half to 75% of those people listening to my show.
Right.
How do we start doing that? And it's just kind of engaging your current fans, and hopefully using the podcast to go take them from casual fan to super fan, you know,
Right.
and just like, because maybe they just freaking love podcasts. And all of a sudden you're in their earbuds all the time.
Right.
There's Kathy C right there, giving me some knowledge. So that's kind of the first phase. And then after that, it's split. There's like a little fork in the road. And we think, how do we keep our current listeners listening? How do we keep them happy? And then how do we acquire new listeners? And then once we acquire new listeners, how do we keep them happy and listening?
Right.
So we have to kind of divide our attention there. So you're still kind of in that first phase
Right.
of, let's get my current audience aware and activated,
Right.
and keep that going. But you're transitioning into that fork in the road where we go, all right, you know, with your email marketing and what you do, I'm very confident that you're going to be good at engage, and your content's really good. So like, that's going to keep your people engaged. Now it's like, let's go find some new people to dive into my world and check out my show. So you've been in the Download Growth Club for a minute now. You're kind of getting your feet wet there. What strategies are you most interested in that you've been learning about, as far as like some things that you want to start implementing, or things you've implemented and are wanting to tweak or fine tune a little bit?
So, you know me, the system and the production is big for me, and I'm getting there. I'm not quite comfortable with it. Like, for instance, today I was listening to the episode and I was like, crap, I said that in there. And I'm like, I didn't put that in my resources because I mentioned my foundations quiz when I was talking about something. So part of it, I think, is I need to be way more strategic when I'm writing the scripts that I'm writing out on what the calls to action are. But what happened was like this one, I was like, I just mentioned it and I know it's not in my show notes or my script because I looked it up and it wasn't even there. So I kind of ad-libbed it in, didn't plan for it, but it was just natural in how I was talking about it and I mentioned it. So I think part of it is it's the strategy of the content that I'm putting into it, and how to come across not being random, but not being so planned and organized that it's boring.
Yeah. Well,
And
first
having a
off,
purpose of selling the programs and services that I
yeah,
offer.
yeah. So first off, like I wouldn't sweat too much around the mention of the whatever, and then
I just
you
added
didn't,
to the show notes. That was fun.
yeah. Like in email marketing, I've been that guy before where I'm like, click here for blah blah blah, and I forget to link it, and then like in email marketing, you're kind of screwed because that email's already out, and then they like, there's no link, you idiot, and I'm getting those emails. That's the email that I get. But with podcasts, like when you just mention stuff, people get the stuff falls through the cracks. And if you're just, but like you said, you can go back and add it to the show notes. No problem. There's a fix there.
Okay.
But yeah, don't, the more I interact with you, the more I get to see like your personality come out and stuff like that. And I can see you are very detail oriented and like stuff like that. Like I know bothers you, and just try not to let it bother you too much.
Right. Okay.
It's not like, I don't think somebody's going to unsubscribe. It's like, Kathy mentioned this and it's not in the show notes. She is now my arch podcast enemy. I wouldn't, you don't want those people to be listening to your show anyway. I don't think they're going to be your super fans. So just kind of saying that. Now, when it comes to mapping out the content, like this is something that I think that we can really get strategic around, especially somebody like you that has those marketing skills and you've got the consistent communication that you do. We can really make this stuff mesh nicely. So what I've been doing, what I really like is I go, okay, what's my next like campaign based offer? Like what's that thing that's time sensitive that I'm going to roll out or whatever? And I've been working backwards from that. So I'm like, all right, what is the topic or what is the pain point that offer is going to solve? Okay. And then I go, all right, I'm going to do 3 to 4 weeks of content on that topic before and during open enrollment for that offer. And I'm going to hit it from all different angles. And it's just like, I'm all over it. So do you have something that's coming out that we could kind of run an example with, that we
kind of
reverse engineer it?
I have a big revamp and redo of my Ultimate Marketing Content Planner.
Okay.
Which is like a standalone product that I sell. It's a bonus when people sign up for my marketing academy, and I sell it for $250.
Okay.
So it's kind of a marketing planner on steroids. And it comes with a goal setting planning and priority planning worksheets, workbook training, along with this template all set up, including 500 pieces of content ready to go and use if they want to use it as their own. And it's really all about the change that I'm doing is sort of streamlining it, because it used to be a little more complicated than I want it to be now. And plus, I don't think people need to put as much content out there on social media as they used to. Not if they're doing the other marketing that helps them. And so that is coming up and going to be launching sort of at the end of January.
Okay.
And then I will be doing another launch of the Academy in March as well, with like a bonus package and stuff. Because that's what I do now, is launch it every 3 or 4 months with a special bonus package, probably a 2-week boot camp like I did in December as well. So nice. There's 2 here. I don't know if, like, I've been planning to do content around the planner into the podcast for coming up, but that's at the end of January. So I'm kind of a couple episodes towards that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the other example of launching the program is a better.
Yeah. Well, I'll kind of give you a broad example. So let's say we're going to have 4 focus episodes that, like, how long is your open cart? Is it like a 10-day, 7-day?
Usually 7 days.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about a 4-episode series to kind of perk up the ears of your ideal customers for this. The last week is the last episode will go during the last week of actually the 7 days of open enrollment. That's what I'm trying to say. So the 4th episode, that's the one that goes out during open cart week. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So you have a
One
question
sec.
about that?
Yeah. So are we looking at the enrollment in the free boot camp or the enrollment in the program?
I'm talking about open enrollment for Buy
The
My
program.
Thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So
All
that
right.
would be week 4 of the content. And I'll show you how to mesh into the free boot camp too, because we can kind of do a double reverse engineer on this. So we're working backward from they sign up for the actual paid offer.
Okay.
So open enrollment for that. That's when the 4th episode drops.
Okay.
I like episode 1 of this series to be why this concept is important.
Okay.
So if it's marketing organization, why is it important? 3 reasons why, the 3 most important reasons why you need to be more organized with your marketing.
Okay.
Like something like that. Then the middle 2, or even if you were doing a 3 episode series, it could be 1, but 1 or 2 episodes where you kind of pluck concepts from the thing that you're selling and just do like an appetizer. And then as you're kind of, just doing a little more surface stuff, you're going to go. And if you really want to go deep with this, then you got to get signed up for blah, blah, blah. Okay. So those are kind of the 2, those is like, if we're making an Oreo cookie here, that's the soft, creamy filling in the middle, like those 2 episodes. Then the other part of the cookie, the other layer is that 4th episode, which we're an open enrollment. I want you to do a mistakes-based episode. This is a strategy that has worked so well, and I wish I'd figured this out a lot sooner. But switching from tips to mistakes, like there's something mental about that. People think they can go on YouTube for all the tips. I can get all the tips on YouTube, but when you go 5 giant marketing mistakes that I see people like you making right now, or 3 marketing mistakes to avoid for people that own a private practice or whatever, like they have to tune in because like, I can't find the answer to this on YouTube because it's like, maybe what I'm watching on YouTube is the mistake that she's talking about. So they have to tune in.
Okay.
And I like that expert positioning during open enrollment week because it just turns up the heat just enough that it's like, all right, she really knows what she's talking about. And I like it if one of the mistakes is a little bit controversial. Like when I'm mentioning things like, I would consider a mistake in the podcast monetization space to be focusing on getting sponsorships.
Right.
And that's controversial. And I'll put that in a mistake-based episode. People are like, oh, this is a little different. This isn't the run-of-the-mill advice I've been getting. So something like with you,
depending on social media.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to put out there. Like that's a nice rubbing against the grain a little bit that positions you differently. So I really like that.
Okay.
For you in that mistakes-based episode. So kind of look at that 4-week ramp up. The first one is, why is this concept important? Kind of broad brush, 3-5 reasons why, blah, 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 blah. Then the Oreo filling, high level stuff on what you're covering in the paid offer. 4th is a mistakes-based episode. Now you can do another round of this into your free challenge, which is what I've been doing. So same concept, the 4 weeks with open enrollment included in your free challenge, same formula. And like I'm doing this right now, and it works really well. And that way you've got a little focus hub on a pain point, on a topic, and it allows, I feel like this is podcasting and podcast marketing at its best because you merge it. These are pain points that your ideal listeners have. Like a very large percentage of them are going to have pain points that you're covering, even though you're focusing it's really easy to get in our head, Kathy, like it's kind of the same topic for 4 weeks in a row. Are people going to hate me for this and then unsubscribe? Right. I don't think that they will, because you're approaching it from different angles, at different levels of intensity. And yeah, like I feel really good about doing this with my own brand and my own show and recommending it to other people. So is that making sense so far?
Yeah. So, but if I do a 2-week boot camp and then carts open for a week, how do you merge if you're doing 4 weeks to the boot camp and then 4 weeks to the open cart. So do you just back up the boot camp so that you're kind of finishing those 4 weeks a few weeks ahead of the boot camp?
Well, it's different. Okay, so that's a great question. And what you could do is, like, the way I do it is my open cart is a little bit pushed back from my boot camps. My boot camps are 3 weeks long, my free challenges. So I've got a little bit of time in there to start doing the first 2 episodes on the next round.
Right.
And then I open cart. So you could turn it into the 2-3 week cycles.
Okay.
Or like if it's a very similar topic, if one goes right into the other and they're very similar pain points from the free challenge into the paid offer, you could just start the 4 week cycle with the open enrollment week. So it could go open enrollment week is week 1 with the overall high, whatever, 5 tips for blah, blah, blah. And then you could do the Oreo filling, and then you could do the mistakes episode when you actually open cart. So you can kind of time it up that way too, or shift it forward. The most important thing for me, I want the mistakes-based episode happening on open enrollment for the pay. Okay. And then kind of work backwards from there.
Right.
And we can, you're in Download Growth Club, so we can compare notes on this when we mesh up. But what I am doing currently, I'm going 3 weeks promoting a topic that leads into the challenge. I'm promoting my coaching and consulting offer, Think Tank.
Right.
So I'm talking a lot about coaching and consulting, but then my paid offer is my campaign for my podcasting business boot camp. So coaching and consulting is one sliver of the boot camp. Is more about, okay, I've got offers. We're going to fine tune their offers, but I'm going to show them how to sell those offers.
Right.
And so it's like a continuation. So I'll talk once the challenge has begun, and I'm not talking about signing it up for the free challenge anymore. I'm going to talk about more about business concepts and sales and conversion and perk up people's ears to that. And then we go, okay, and here's this thing that way the people that are in my challenge are getting fired up by that content even more. But the people that for whatever reason didn't do the challenge, or maybe they just found my show in the last week, then the right ears are still perking up, heading towards the open enrollment for the main offer. Make sense?
Okay. Yep.
All right. So I'll challenge you to kind of map this out a little bit. I think that's good homework. Mm-hmm. And let's bring this to the table at our next meetup for the Download Growth Club. And that way we can just kind of look at this and map it out and fine tune it. And, you got access to me on Slack and Instagram and everything else. So yeah, I would like to see kind of a mock-up on this, because I think you could be very, very
a mock-up of the content ideas for each episode.
Yeah. And just the week timing and everything. And just don't stress out too much about it's got to be 3 and 3. Like this could be an overall 4-week content cycle. This could be a 5-week thing. We can make it fit. Right. But it's just like, what does our Oreo cookie look like? And then, and I think how do we make it all mesh up?
The way that you said it. So I would typically start the boot camp it'd be 2 full weeks, and then cart kind of opens at the end of the one. Actually, I did a follow-up. So I really made it 3 weeks.
Okay.
I did an open Q&A a week later so that they could come and ask questions after they had some time to work on all the stuff too. So that would actually be 1, 2, 3. And the 4th one would be the week that the cart's open.
Yeah. So you got a little longer runway than you thought. So map all that out, work on some content ideas. I think that, I think you'll really like this. I really like it. We're both organized people. We like having things in the proper place.
Yes.
And once you start doing this, like you'll see really nice traction, momentum with conversion into your offer and activation. And the whole thing is just getting the right potential clients really fired up about a topic, and you're answering their questions. You're starting to create momentum. But the real thing is podcast listeners, we all, podcast listeners or not, we tend to be passive. And now we're going, all right, now for those of you that are really freaking serious about this, here's the thing to do.
Right.
And I've made it very clear that I'm an expert in this. I've told you about the reasons why to do this. I've given you some examples, and I've told you that some mistakes that you absolutely need to avoid. I'd love to help you avoid those mistakes and optimize this whole thing with my super awesome offer. So
Okay.
it makes
Cool.
sense. It only makes sense. All right, Kathy, I don't want to dump too much
No, I'm good.
amazing ideas on you. Let's make sure we take a minute here to shout out your brand, let people know if they maybe want to have you on their show as a guest. I know if you all have marketing based shows, or if you have a need for a marketing expert, Kathy's got very interesting and unique ideas around marketing. So yeah, Kathy, where do people go if they want to connect with you?
So you can connect with me. You can find the podcast at marketingyourprivatepractice.com. And it is a podcast for private practice owners, dietitians, therapists, and clinicians, but it also has tons of stuff for service-based business owners in there as well. And you can find me on Instagram at Pepper It Marketing. That's my main company name. It's what I started out with, but I did pointedly name my podcast
Yes.
in a very specific way. And I feel like I made a good choice on a good SEO name. And that is where I've got it kind of set up in there as well. So hopefully that does make sense from an SEO point of view. And
yeah. Oh, I mean,
yeah,
everybody listening in, I mean, I know you listen to my show. Like that's the first thing we normally talk about on a podcast
yeah,
audit. I'm like, all right, let's talk about changing the name of your show. And no mention of
yeah.
that at all today. Yeah,
Woo!
like when I see the name marketing your private practice, like I know what it's about. I know who it's for.
Right.
That's, and we got keywords. I'm happy.
Yeah.
So you
good.
are good to go. Kathy, I always enjoy getting to hang out with you and create content
Thank you.
together. Super proud of all the effort that you're putting in. Can't wait to see what actually happens in the next 6 months here. So
6 months. I'm looking for, what did I say? 250?
250. I would bet money that it's going to be even better than that. So we shall
awesome.
see. All right, Pod Pals, if
Okay.
you want to be just like Kathy C and come on the show, hit me up on the website, podcastingbusiness.school, and get signed up. It's free. It's awesome. And it's highly entertaining. So get signed up and we will see you on the show. With that, I will sign off wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We will see you all next time.